right, hello, this is Kim, and we are back with Ask Kim. This is where you can send in a question to askkim@themarriageplace.com, and I will try my best to give you an answer that is helpful to you and anybody else who might be listening. So today is an interesting question. A lot of you might have a situation like this or similar to this, so let's jump in. This person says, I am in a 29-year marriage. My husband told me in marriage therapy that he had not been attracted to me for more than 29 years and hasn't loved me longer than that. 3.5 years ago, he stopped having any sort of physical contact with me. I tried to talk to him repeatedly, but he won't communicate. Should I stay married to him? We do have a great friendship, but that's it. Lots of things pop up in that for me, and I do get this quite a bit, actually. I get people who come in to see me or work with one of my people that say, my spouse said they never loved me. My spouse says they were never attracted to me. Let me just talk about that for a minute. What happens is when we are unhappy in a relationship, we tend to focus on all of the reasons and the things that make us unhappy. And especially if we're somebody that doesn't communicate well or knows how to talk about things like that, or we're afraid of hurting our spouse's feelings, or we're afraid of getting into a fight, or if I bring it up, then we might get a divorce. So they just keep things in. Then what happens is they start to tell themselves a story. And the story is, I'm not happy, I was never happy. And how this happens is that what you focus on is what expands. So for instance, my husband and I, we were looking at a different kind of car that we thought we might be interested in purchasing. And I'd never actually seen one. He shows it to me online and we read up on the specs on it. And I'm like, that's a cool car. We might want to look into that sometime. And then we drive down the road and I'll be doggone, there's many of them out there that I didn't know was there. But once I started it on my radar, I started seeing it everywhere. The same is true for any negative traits or qualities that we see in our spouse that start to make us crazy or make us resentful or make us feel hopeless or sad. If that's where you start to linger and focus, then you start to see all the negative. And pretty soon that negative clouds everything, and you actually rewrite history in your brain. And so you'll tell yourself, I was never happy, I was never attracted to this person, I settled when I married him, I settled for less, I deserve better than this. You tell yourself all kinds of things. It's actually got a name. It's called negative sentiment override. I think Gottman is the one who named that, and I lived it. And so I was in that situation where I was so focused on the negative with my husband that eventually it was all I could see. I got to the point where when that man breathed, it annoyed me. I even said to him one time, could you just stop breathing? And that's what I think is maybe happening to your husband. Because look, nobody marries without some level of attraction. They just don't. We don't live in a country where we're having to do arranged or forced marriages anymore. So that I wouldn't believe. And the other thing is the sex thing. That's a problem. Not having sex for 3.5 years. I'm wondering, when your husband stopped wanting to have physical contact, what happened in you? Did that raise a red flag? Did you sound the alarm? We need to go see a therapist. This isn't okay. This isn't normal. What was going on in you in that time? You said we have a great friendship. Sister, I'm going to challenge that. This is a guy who has been feeling negatively about you and the relationship for quite some time. He stopped having any kind of physical contact and will not talk about it. This is not a great friendship. This is not a friendship at all, actually. This is roommates in an apartment, and you may well live together okay, as in there's not a lot of conflict, but this is not a relationship at all on any level other than surface roommate, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. And so you're saying that and asking this question this way tells me you're probably not really great at intimacy either, or you would have sounded the alarm much, much sooner. When a man stops physical contact like that, a couple things that can be happening. I've seen it happen when the wife has some big change in appearance or health. So she's gained an extreme amount of weight, or she stopped taking care of her body hygiene-wise, or Maybe there's been some kind of illness that has caused him to maybe distance or push away from sexual activity. That's one reason, and it needs to be dealt with. And when he says, I haven't been attracted to you, maybe there's something there, and maybe not. Another thing, when men stop having attraction to their wife, we find there's a lot of, oftentimes, pornography. I talk a lot about pornography. It rewires the brain. Men who get really addicted to it or engaged in it frequently oftentimes lose a lot of attraction for real women and real bodies and real sex, because it allows them to get a release without any kind of emotional or intimate connection. And it's lazy. It's a lazy way to get off. It doesn't require the messiness of human interaction. I'm wondering if there's some of that going on. It could be anything. You need to find out what's going on before I would even think about staying married to this guy. But you said, should I stay married? Does he want to stay married? If this has been going on for so long, and for 3.5 years he hasn't wanted sex, why is he not filing for divorce? What is his motivation to stay in the marriage, and what is yours? So those are questions I think you need to think about. Here's what I would do if I were you. I've written an ebook. It's on our site at themarriageplace.com. It's about when your spouse wants a divorce and you don't. And what I love about this book is that it focuses on the only person you can change, which is you. If you have a spouse who's disengaged, shut down, maybe even says, I definitely want a divorce, your first job is to figure out what you're doing or saying or not doing or saying that's making this dynamic worse. When I wanted a divorce, my husband was desperate. He wasn't really good at intimacy either, but the thought of me leaving put him in panic mode, and he just held on tight, and I felt so suffocated, and I wanted out even more. However I was acting, treating, or making the choices that I was making was not his fault. But he had to look at, okay, my wife wants out. I want to work on it. Am I doing anything that makes it harder for her to want to come back and say, let's work on it? But it wasn't until he did his own work about what's going on with him. So that's where he started. And so I wrote this book about this. I would start with that. Get the book, start figuring out your dynamic in this, and be willing to work on that. Especially if you work with one of our coaches, you'll get an idea of, is this a marriage that you really want to save? Is it a marriage that can be saved? I will tell you, if anything has a chance of getting your spouse re-engaged, our program will get you there. But sometimes not all relationships can be. And so there's no guarantee that it's going to. But if anything works, ours will work. I want you to go look at that, get the book, and think about working with somebody who can help you start changing this whole momentum of where you guys are going. Something's off. I've not been attracted to you. I don't want sex with you, but I'm not filing for divorce. And you're over here saying we have a great friendship, but I don't know if I should file for divorce. You guys are spinning in your own separate orbits. We need to figure out if we can merge that again in some way. Something else I want to talk to you about, go to www.yourbrainonporn.com and just do some reading. It may not apply to your husband or your situation at all, and even if it doesn't, you'll find it pretty fascinating, I think. It's good information to have. Okay, so that's it for today's session of Ask Kim. Send in your questions to askkim@themarriageplace.com. If you like us, hit like and subscribe, and that allows us to stay here and keep doing what we're doing. I wish you the most happy and healthy of all relationships. The person you're married to, the person you're in relationship with, is the most important relationship you'll ever have. So we've got to learn how to do it better and raise our love bar. I wish you guys the best in that, and I'm here to help any way I can. Until next time.